All right, welcome everybody. Hope everybody's having a good Sunday. Thanks for joining the live. It's going to be a little different live tonight. I didn't really schedule any topics, and what I want to talk about tonight is 9/11 on this anniversary. On September 11th, the one in question, I was completing my fellowship training. I just started actually, but completing my medical training with a year of fellowship that I had just started in New Jersey. So I was only about an hour and 45 minutes from Times Square. And I went to work and I was doing rounds in a patient's room. And I saw that a plane had struck the World Trade Center, and it was on live news, so they didn't really know what was going on. They hadn't known what size plane it was, and they really didn't know what was happening. That was about 8:30 in the morning, I think. But the TVs were on in patients' rooms, and so I was watching the television as the second plane struck the second tower, and I knew that this was no Cessna, this was no Piper Cub, this was a full-blown aircraft carrier, and the explosion made it clear that we were under attack. And because I was in a surgical specialty, they canceled all surgeries. All elective surgeries were canceled under the possibility that we were going to receive casualties even that far out. And of course, in the end, there were very few casualties. There were fatalities, but there weren't very many casualties, even for the local hospitals in New York. I had one child and a second one on the way. And my wife was distraught, wondering what kind of world we were bringing these kids in. And a few weeks after that, I went to a medical conference in New York City that was held despite the fact that, things had been shut down and all that stuff. But plane travel had resumed. And so I went down to ground zero and looked over the construction walls at the site. And then I went back about a half a block away from the closest that you could approach. And there was a little bagel shop there. And I sat in this little bagel shop and drank coffee. And the whole time I was there eating my bagel and drinking my coffee, I could see people going to the left. And it was New York, you think it's going to be busy, it's going to be hustling. But I knew there was no place for those people to go except where I had been. And then I'd see all the same people coming back, going to the right. And other than that, the streets around there were just desolate. There was nothing traveling. There was nobody out shopping. There was not the typical hustle and bustle of the city. And that winter, I was starting to hear a lot of activity. I was right near Fort Dix in New Jersey. And pretty soon, planes were taking off every 2 minutes. And that's when I knew that we were getting involved in a military excursion into the Middle East. And, I never thought for a minute that the child I had at the time or the one that I subsequently had would both grow up having never known an America in peacetime. I served 6 years in peacetime military. I watched the Berlin Wall fall on television after I had been to Europe, but as an active duty naval personnel, I hadn't been able to go past the Iron Curtain. There were a lot of countries that I visited, but there were a lot of countries that I couldn't visit. And it's a struggle. I read today, I think it was Rolling Stone said that we should give up on the idea of never forget. as a former military man, seeing 3,000 fatalities on civilians on U.S. soil, I don't necessarily think that's the truth. And I think that our true enemies have been fighting among each other for thousands of years. And so I don't think they're going to forget. And I think we need to remember when it's pressing to deal with a lot of issues that require government money, and we want to divert things to social issues and to address the ills that we suffer from. We need to remember that there is a force of evil. I think we see it going on right now in the Ukraine, and that we need to maintain a defensible stance that allows us to provide the kind of security that, even growing up in wartime, I think we can all agree that our own children and our generations of people here in the United States have not known war on our soil. And because of that, I think they have not suffered from some of the disruptions and the dislocations that you see going on throughout the world. I'm sure nobody would have thought that Ukraine, a advanced civilized European country, would have been suffering from at this point 2-3 years ago. I certainly wouldn't have thought of it. So I just wanted to come on tonight. I may not stay on that long, but I wanted to see if anyone else out there has any thoughts or comments about the observance. It was really muted this year. It didn't get nearly the attention that it's gotten in the past, and it's inevitable, and I think that's a good thing. But I also think that unlike the Rolling Stone, I do think we need to never forget, because we do need to remember that there are enemies that we have to worry about and we have to be prepared for. So welcome, Spider-Man and BNIO, Demons 3gen, Love, Summer Butterflies. Welcome all you folks. I hope everybody had a good Sunday. I hope we all enjoyed the peace that others have sacrificed for. I know a lot of people gave a lot in the Iraq wars and in Afghanistan, and I am personally humbled by their sacrifice and the service that they provided. My own military service was pretty irrelevant, but my father and my grandfather had a pretty impressive history of service to the country. So, it's just an opportunity to kind of look around and thank those people who make that sacrifice that most of us don't have to, and appreciate the life that that sacrifice provides us with. So I think gratitude is a pretty important space to try and maintain in your heart. And I hope that everybody can continue to do that and continue to honor those who fell on that day, the civilians who lost their lives, and to remember the philosophies and the willingness of those who view us as an enemy to strike against any target, hard or soft. And if nobody else has anything to say, it seems pretty quiet tonight, not getting any comments. So I'll probably sign off, but I appreciate you joining, and hope to see you guys on my regular scheduled weekly Sunday night, 7:30 p.m. Pacific lives, where I'll get back to being Dr. Frank Cadle, talking about weight loss and nutrition and exercise physiology and all the stuff that I normally do.